Our meeting will come to order. The committee meets today to receive testimony on the National Nuclear Security Administration's fiscal year 2021 budget request and to address some concerning efforts to undermine NNSA's relationship with the DoD. Arguably, this could go down as one of the most significant hearings that we've had, and we've had a lot of hearings. I want to welcome our witnesses, including the first two women ever to head up the nation's nuclear enterprise. Our country is very fortunate to have your leadership in these challenging times. So we have the Honorable Lisa Gordon Haggerty, the Administrator of the National Nuclear Security Administration, and Honorable Ellen Lord, Undersecretary of Defense for Acquisition and Sustainment and Chair of the Nuclear Weapons Council, and Admiral Charles Richard, Commander of the United States Strategic Command. As this committee focuses on implementing the National Defense Strategy, that's this right here. We've referred to this many times before, a great document that's put together on a bipartisan, and this what we were attempting to do is consistent with that. And when asked about the priorities for dealing with China and Russia, General Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said, and this is a quote, "I think the very number one priority for me and number one priority stated for the Department of Defense is the modernization, recapitalization of the nation's nuclear triad," and I couldn't agree more. General Milley is exactly right and on target. Thanks to President Trump's decisive leadership, we're making great progress towards this goal. Unfortunately, we are here today to address a very real threat to our nuclear deterrent, but this threat isn't from China or Russia. It's one of our own making, regretfully. Coordination and transparency between DoD and NNSA is critical to the modernization of the triad, but there are those who are trying to weaken that coordination, and I want to be clear. They are undermining our national security in doing so. Recently, I've learned that individuals from the Department of Energy have worked behind the scenes with House Democrats on ill-advised legislation that would, I want to mention four things here, very significant. I hope you take note of them. That language that has been proposed from the House would bury the Nuclear Weapons Council in unneeded bureaucracy and bring its decision-making process to a grinding halt. It would, number two, prohibit all cooperation between NNSA and the Nuclear Weapons Council for maintaining the safety and security of our nuclear weapons. Number three, it would destroy the NNSA's congressionally mandated independence and drag us back to the dysfunction of during the Clinton years. And number four, it would do lasting and possibly irreversible harm to the president's efforts to preserve and improve our deterrent, an effort even former President Obama understood was necessary. And we've heard our president talk over and over again about the significance of this, about the threat that is posed out there. In fact, I have a letter from the Department of Defense objecting to these provisions. The provisions that we're referring to that are being proposed in the House, in which I would like to enter the record. Secretary Esper, and I'm going to go ahead and put his entire statement as without objection into this record, but a couple of sentences out of it. He said, after reviewing the recently House-passed fiscal year 2021 appropriations bill and the National Defense Authorization Bill, I would like to share with you my strong concerns with several irrelated aspects of these bills. If left unaddressed, provisions affecting DoD, DOE, and NNSA put modernization of the United States nuclear deterrent at unacceptable risk. That's the Secretary of Defense. I also have a letter from the chair of the nuclear, of the NWC, who is here with us right now, that objects to these provisions, and I would like to enter that into the record. That's this, and we'll, of course, hear from him during the course of this meeting. It's not surprising that opponents of the nuclear weapons support these efforts. You know, that we would expect them to do that. What bothers me is that people who should be doing all they can to support the critical work of the NNSA are instead trying to undermine it. As chairman of this committee, I won't stand by idly and allow this to happen. The work is too important. I suppose we should have expected this sort of political maneuvering to continue after what happened earlier this year with the fiscal year 2021 budget request. We all remember that. Because of the certain individuals at the Department of Energy, what they did, the cutting the DOD out of the NNSA budget development process until the last minute, the budget coordination process broke down completely. You know, I was in shock when that took place, and I found out that during this process that the DOD is not even considered, not even consulted, not in any way. And they were not knowledgeable of what the budget was until after it was already developed. And that is totally unacceptable. I mean, they're the customer. And I was surprised, and people are surprised. Right now, the majority of people in the United States Senate are probably not aware of that. But in the process, these bad actors actively misled the U.S. Congress. There was no misunderstanding. They lied to us, and later they admitted it. One of the lies was they were talking about a slush fund of $6 to $8 billion that's out there. There wasn't a slush fund, and they knew it, and they admitted it later. As a result, we had to go to the White House and save one of President Trump's top priorities. When we took our case to the president, he agreed with us. He was frustrated and annoyed that simple coordination could go so wrong. I applaud the president's decisive action to resolve that issue. We all thought that his clear direction would solve the near-term problem. Then, to fix the longer-term problem, my friend Senator Reid and I drafted legislation to help DOD and NNSA improve their coordination efforts. These common sense provisions passed easily in the committee. In our committee, they passed 25 to 2, and the 2 who voted against it were against the bill anyway. So you could say it was unanimously accepted. That's the language what we're talking about. These simple measures ensure that DOD and NNSA officials have the information required to do their jobs, keeping us safe and maximizing taxpayers' dollars. These provisions were and should remain uncontroversial. We know how this process should look. For example, DOD and the intelligence community work very closely to ensure intelligence programs meet the military needs. They are in total agreement on these things. That's what should be taking place in the other areas. It's a straightforward matter of good governance and effective civilian oversight. Our bill would do the same for the NNSA budget. Keeping our nuclear modernization efforts moving forward demands close cooperation between DOD and NNSA. The ability to see each other's program and budget details is the fundamental requirement for realistic future planning. Without effective coordination, nuclear programs will face unnecessary cost overruns and scheduled delays. Dropping the ball on nuclear modernization means that we're disarming ourselves in slow motion, which puts us on a trajectory to fall further behind our adversaries. You know, there was a time when we didn't have adversaries that had that sophistication, this equipment, this technology, the resources that they have today. Truly, they are ahead of us. We all know what happened and how that happened, and they are there. It's not like it was. I sometimes get criticized when I say I look back at the good old days of the Cold War, when we knew there were two superpowers. We knew what they had. They knew what we had. That was easy. It's not the way it is today. And that's why Congress legislated coordination between DOD and DOE in the first place all those years ago, and that's why the Nuclear Weapons Council exists today. That's the reason for it. All of you and all of DOD and NNSA want to work together more closely to ensure that nuclear modernization programs are correctly aligned and delivered on time, and we need the Department of Energy to join in this effort. There has been much talk, a lot of it inaccurate, about this issue. So we have 3 members of the Nuclear Weapons Council here today to explain how we can improve DOD and NNSA coordination. I want to commend the 3 of you, all 3 of you, for the work in modernization in the nation's nuclear deterrent. Your efforts in the Nuclear Weapons Council have been some of the most productive I've seen, maybe the most productive that I've seen in the years that I've been here. Our nuclear forces are absolutely critical to our nation's security, and I would hate to see all of your hard work undone by rogue actors who don't support our shared efforts. We can't let personal agendas distract us from this critical mission. So I thank you for appearing here today in a very difficult and very significant, perhaps the most significant meeting that we've had in a long time. Senator Reid.